My name is Colin Howells, and you're about to join me as we take a step back in time to see exactly how professional buffalo hunting was carried out during the 60s and 70s in Australia's vast Northern Territory. The documentary you're about to see was mainly taken at my Bullman plant, deep in the wilds of the 41,000 square mile Arnhem Land Aboriginal Reserve. Where did these buffalo come from? In 1825, a British garrison at Port Essington was abandoned, and 8 buffalo previously imported as beasts of burden were released to fend for themselves. Unlike the British soldiers, the buffalo found the harsh surrounding country very much to their liking, and by the late 1950s they had multiplied into herds of between 1 and 1.5 million animals. Unfortunately for the buffalo, their excessive numbers were causing extensive ecological damage, and government experts decided to reduce the herds to a manageable level. The areas shaded green on the map show where the main herds were located. Packing plants were needed to process the harvested buffalo. Luckily, I was able to develop a mobile concept, which you will see operating in this documentary, that had the capability to follow the moving herds. It was necessary to relocate the plant every 2 to 3 years. A small number of fixed location plants were also utilised. Professional harvesting under the strict control of government wildlife rangers proved very successful, and by the end of the 70s, the herd numbers were down to the desired level. Additionally, my relatively new hunting safari company was doing very well. At that point, there seemed no reason why a sensible combination of harvesting and sport hunting could not maintain the desired numbers. Then came the crunch. The USDA advised its Australian counterparts that unless feral herds were eliminated by 1994, no further beef importation would be allowed into the USA. The reason given was that the feral herds might transmit some exotic disease to the domestic animals, and this in turn might travel to the US herds via beef imports. The real reason, of course, was both political and economic. During my professional hunting career, the record showed that I had taken around 33,600 buffalo, but in fact the real figure was closer to 40,000. Those numbers were to quickly pale into insignificance by what was soon to come. Politics and the almighty dollar prevailed, and although some of us argued strongly against it, the authorities implemented a total wipeout program. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of buffalo and other species have since been shot and left to rot in a massive shootout conducted from helicopters using semi-automatic military rifles. In a small way, nature has prevailed, and there are still a few minor pockets of buffalo existing in areas where the terrain makes it too difficult to get at them. The authorities are allowing these small herds to remain, and consequently trophy animals can still be hunted. Sadly though, when I last flew over those endless coastal plains, which a few short years ago were black with buffalo, there was not a single buffalo in sight. Those magnificent herds are now gone forever. And now let's get on with our story. Our story begins at Darwin Airport. This is a joint civil and military installation and had at one time the longest runway in the southern hemisphere. It is the center of operations for the buffalo harvesting industry. Air transportation is vital for efficient operation because of the long distances involved. Currently, our camp is based at Bullman, 220 miles east of Darwin, in the 41,000 square mile unmapped Arnhem Land Aboriginal Reserve. It will take about 80 minutes flying time in the Piper Aztec to reach the camp. Looking down, the camp seems small, but it is really a completely self-contained village. Luckily, breakfast is still on. And everyone is anxious not to miss out. Now it's time for work, and we are pulling away in specially equipped vehicles. In the lead is the shooting car, followed by 3 recovery units. All vehicles are heavy-duty and especially modified Nissan Patrol 4x4s. Mobs of wild horses are sighted, and then our quarry, buffalo. Climbing a rock mound provides the best position for the first shots of the day. The first bulls go down cleanly. Then it's into the shooting vehicle to approach more bulls. The Model 77 Ruger 308, using NATO military ammunition, continues to do its job faultlessly. Headshots are required by law and of course provide the cleanest kills and cause little or no damage to the meat. Bruised meat to the professional is lost money. Correct bleeding is critical and required by regulations. It is essential for a good end product. A recovery vehicle speeds into place. The buffalo, having been bled, are quickly loaded and tied down for their trip back to the packing plant. Under average conditions, 6 buffalo can be shot and loaded and the vehicle be moving out in 8 minutes or less. That sounds fast to some people, but 8 minutes is a long time. When I first came into this business, the equipment used was badly designed and inefficient. Most of the operators were just barely getting by financially. It used to take them 20 minutes to load a single animal. To make money, it was obvious that changes were needed. Some of these changes were thought up by my men or myself. One of the most important improvements came by way of what we thought at the time to be misfortune. One of the recovery drivers who worked for me, a young man from Victoria, Ray Harris, lost our loading slide, which we used to slide the bodies up onto the trailer. Being miles from camp and a replacement slide, I was furious at the pending delay, and I attempted to jerk a buffalo onto the trailer without using a loading slide. It was amazing. It worked perfectly, and we never used a slide again. We did, however, learn the art of correctly positioning the trailer to the lay of the bodies, and exactly how and to which point of the body to connect the cable. It's sort of like playing pool. Loads of 6 buffalo were about the best, weight and time-wise, but we often put more on a single trailer. From memory, 14 was the most. Driving recovery vehicles at high speeds whilst towing heavily loaded trailers, with the trailers having no brakes, requires a high degree of skill and cool nerves. Over the years I employed many such drivers, but only 3 were outstanding. The driver you see here was one of those 3. Two galahs looked down at the passing vehicle. Maps of this area were vague and incomplete. We made over 400 miles of roads on this project and named many creeks and of course the creek and river crossings. With 3 recovery vehicles operating, the best procedure was found to be to allocate each driver 1/3 of the route. The best bushman was used at the shooting end. His task was to anticipate my movements in often virgin country and to consistently and reliably find me. The troublemaker, of which there invariably is one, was placed on the centre section where he could do no damage. The politician was used on the camp end to handle problems which came in regular daily doses. Bull dust was always a continual problem to our eyes, and of course the vehicles too. Rollovers were not common, but they were aggravating when they did occur. The trick was to try to right the trailer and keep as many buffalo in place as possible. That, of course, can prove more difficult than it looks. Some folks must have ice. I found river and creek water straight from the streams to be just fine. The shooting vehicle carried a single sideband radio. Every morning and evening, messages were sent and received. In the event of medical emergencies, it was standard practice to patch straight through to the Darwin hospital and receive do-it-yourself instructions directly from the duty doctor. The government provided comprehensive medical kits and, where necessary, a flying doctor aircraft would effect evacuations. As the load of buffalo moves towards camp, it passes more wild cattle and an area intentionally burned to produce a fresh regrowth of grass which attracts buffalo herds. Shooting operations extend out about 55 miles in every direction from camp. The buffalo must reach the plant within 1 hour of being shot. After a hard drive, the load arrives at camp. The tie-down ropes are removed and the bodies are fogged with insecticide to kill the thousands and thousands of buffalo flies. Then they are washed down, lifted with electric hoists, and moved onto the slaughter floor. The carcasses are placed on cradles and the skinning begins. The slaughtermen you see here are the best in their business, and one slip with one of those knives can be extremely serious. On occasions there have even been fatalities. Consider that the hides these knives cut through are tough and up to 1.5 inches thick. Each slaughterman skins 30 to 35 animals a day. The entire operation is run under the watchful eye of a resident government inspector. The gut is removed and travels down a chute into a waiting disposal trailer which will transport its load to the dumping site. The meat inspector at this point checks the animals for disease. Unlike some areas, this location proved entirely free of the major disease found in buffalo, tuberculosis. The bodies are then broken down into quarters using a powerful electric meat saw. The quarters are placed on the rail and then pushed into the trimming room, where they are given one final wash down and trim before being rolled into the chiller. Total time from cradle to rail is 7 minutes per carcass. Here we have the gut trailer. With gut being loaded from the inside chute. Men are men and always try to fit more into the gut trailer than it was meant to carry. Loading is completed and the trailer heads for the gut dump. In the boning room, a boner puts on a chain-mail glove to protect his hand against accidental slips with his razor-sharp knife. The quarters have been cooled in the chiller overnight and are now being moved into the boning room. Expert boners go to work, boning out the quarters. Each quarter taking approximately 3 minutes to bone out. The meat passes along the table to the packers, and the bones exit via the bone chute to land in the waiting bone trailer. From outside, an air curtain is visible over the bone chute. This air curtain produces an air barrier that prevents flies and other insects entering the bone room. Whoops, missed. The bone trailer is now full and departs for the dump. Crows look down on the dump over the remains of 13,600 buffalo. These bones will soon be burned and vegetables grown in the enriched soil. A bush aboriginal approaches the plant to ask for meat. One of the men obliges, and the Aboriginal then walks a short distance away from the camp before stopping to prepare his meal. Aboriginals often place leaves between the coals and the meat they are cooking. Apart from preventing the meat from burning, they claim it adds flavour. Back in the boning room, the packers are busy packing the meat into cartons. This is a very critical phase of the operation, as the senior packer also fills the position of quality controller and gives the product a final inspection. Each carton weighs 60 pounds net and 64 pounds gross. To prevent damage through moisture, the actual cartons are waxed inside and out and fitted with leak-proof plastic liners. To complete the process, securing wires are placed around the cartons. The cartons are then placed in the blast freezer adjoining the boning room, where they will be a rock-hard 18 degrees Fahrenheit inside of 6 hours. One of the trucks backs in for loading. The plant's storage capacity for frozen product is 80 tons. 10 to 12 tons of boneless meat is produced daily, so it is critical that the trucks arrive on time to prevent hold-ups occurring. The loading goes smoothly, with each carton being carefully marked and counted. It is also necessary to check each carton for damage, as damaged cartons cannot be exported. Now the loading is completed and the truck pulls away from the freezers. The container is closed by my father. It will not be reopened until it reaches its destination, Adelaide, about 2,500 miles away. The truck will then take on supplies and head back. Only one single driver will guide that faithful Mack truck on its long return journey. It's a tiring and demanding job with heavy responsibilities. We have now viewed the entire cycle from shooting to the shipping of the finished product. Now let's return to the field for some more action shots. Top priorities of the day are a little laundry and of course a shave. Meanwhile, Dave ensures that his feet are in a spotless condition. This is followed by a quick snack, consisting mainly of buffalo steak and vegetables. With a paperbark tree as a not very comfortable seat, and a cormorant watches from his vantage point. A 2 3/4 by 90 Weatherby scope fitted with a medium crosshair mounted on a totally reliable Ruger Model 77 goes back into action. Day after day and week after week, this incredible combination never once failed to perform faultlessly. Shooting and loading continues day after day, and the entire operation's success rests on the rifle and its user. From experience, I found it best to retire a rifle every 1,000 buffalo shot. Allowing for extra shots fired, zeroing the rifle, shooting small game for the camp, such as ducks and turkeys, and dispatching vermin, this related to about 1,500 shots per rifle. Very few factory rifles can be taken straight from the box, adjusted under field conditions, and deliver the sort of performance Model 77s consistently did on my operations. Because their working lives were extremely short, usually only about 14 days, they receive virtually no cleaning with the exception of the occasional squirt of WD-40. Such rifles were certainly not shot out, but I am always on the conservative side and retire them early. On one reliability test, 3,500 buffalo were taken with a single Model 77. It was re-zeroed and the screws checked every 500 buffalo shot, and it was cleaned only twice by being totally immersed in a 55-gallon barrel of gasoline, wiped dry and squirted with WD-40. Standard NATO factory full metal jacket ammunition was used as usual. Ruger Model 77s have not let me down ever. I have found the trigger systems to be easily adjusted and very usable, as the results recorded in this film clearly testify. Careful zeroing is time-consuming and requires much care. However, it is a must and must be done meticulously and regularly. These are fine old bulls, and there are very many of them. They show little fear of the hunter. Some were so old that they even had 50 caliber projectiles in them as souvenirs collected when fighter pilots used them for target practice during the Second World War. That practice, by the way, raised a storm of protests and was soon stopped. Sharp knives are essential, and proper sharpening is an art. Tricky methods are sometimes needed to get those last buff up onto an extra large load. Bulls don't always fall in the best places. Sometimes it's necessary to drag a buff out to a more convenient loading place. Dead meat cannot be bruised, but friction can burn meat. If a body is left more than 8 to 10 minutes on the ground, the underside of the animal can be partly cooked by the hot ground and the meat spoiled, so they must be loaded quickly. Sometimes it is necessary to shoot across creeks. Then, of course, comes the difficulties of getting across and getting back. Occasionally wounded buff had to be dealt with. I found the best method was to get as close as possible, as quickly as possible, and dispatch the animal with the utmost speed. Once back on the right side of the creek, the buffalo already dragged to the far side must be brought across. A certain amount of entertainment can be had if this task is approached with a little careful planning. We jokingly used to call this our buffalo rodeo. Not all riders lasted the distance, and some even got a little messy. Every year, thousands of square miles are burned off. This allows drivers to see rocks and other obstructions and causes a succulent regrowth of natural grasses which attract buffalo for miles around. That, of course, helps make the hunter's job a little easier. Finding 60 to 75 shootable animals every day is no easy task. It was necessary to constantly consult with the Aboriginal landowners to ensure tribal customs and sacred sites were respected. I was most privileged to be made a full tribal member with the tribal name of Womit. Breakdowns such as this trailer bearing do occur, and the necessary parts had to be carried to ensure that the load was quickly on its way again. Hide preparation is a long and arduous task that must be performed meticulously if top quality hides are to be produced. First, the hides are fleshed. And then salted, and then at exactly the precise moment of drying out, folded. If the hides dry too much, they become as hard as iron and cannot be folded. Finally, more salt is added and the hides are stacked in preparation for shipping. Maintenance is never ending and must be attended to at the plant, as there are no workshops for hundreds of miles. This includes taking care of our own refrigeration, generators, electric power supply, and of course all mechanical and vehicle servicing needs. This is Aboriginal tribal country, and from time to time we encounter a tribesman going about his daily business. Termites are considered good tucker. Hunting is an everyday task, as food needs must be met. And pandanus nuts are gathered for grinding into a kind of flour. Wild honeybees attract to their hives, where their hives are robbed. These bees do not sting and make no honeycomb. The honey provides the only sweet natural food in the Aboriginals' diet. As the shadows grow long and sundown draws near, 2 more loads are needed to fill the day's quota. It is always a relief to locate sufficient bulls for these last loads. Before hurrying off to seek the final load for the day, Darwin's outpost radio must be contacted to check for messages. Although I have no traffic to send, checking in is expected, and it is a means of letting the radio operator and any friends listening in know that all is well. Now it's off to shoot the last load. Luck is with us, and we quickly locate enough bulls. At the plant, the day's last buffalo is lifted from the trailer. A new day has arrived, and some of the crew are enjoying a very well-earned rest. Meanwhile, the others are busy as they have a variety of chores that must be attended to before departing for a short break in town. Because the Aztec has limited seating, the men must alternate each break. Half go to town and half must remain in the camp. The Aztec has been pushed out from under its shelter, and the men arrive in good spirits. A daily inspection of the aircraft is performed. The windows are cleaned, and we climb aboard. The 250 horsepower Lycomings come readily to life. We taxi out through the red dust, and are soon roaring down the runway. The aircraft's call sign, MPE, named after my 3 children, Mark, Paul and Elizabeth, is easily visible on the wing. The swamp near the plant, from which we took over 2,000 buffalo in the first season, lies directly below, with the red airstrip visible in the distance. As we turn overhead the plant and set course, I radio our flight plan to air traffic control. En route to Darwin, we make a brief stop at the small township of Catherine to drop off 2 of our men who live there. Departing Catherine, we pass over the famous Catherine Gorge, then over the endless coastal swamp plains where the movie Crocodile Dundee was filmed. The number and varieties of bird and animal life on these plains is truly incredible. Fringing the plains are dense paperbark swamps that cover thousands of square miles. An occasional crocodile is sighted basking in the sun. This is the home of the world's largest crocodiles. Finally, we arrive back at Darwin and look down at the city, which is destined to be totally destroyed on Christmas Day 1974 by Cyclone Tracy. As the Aztec touches down on runway 36 and rolls through to turn and taxi to the holding area, everyone is looking forward to a short, well-earned rest.